Hi folks, I'm Ben Henry, TPM on Chrome Operations. This is me carving a spoon. So I'm going to show you some tools. This is a carving axe, and then there's a camp hatchet, which I actually end up not using at all in this project. But it was the spoon, the carving axe is brand new. This is a Sloyd knife or a straight carving knife, and then there's two hook knives with different sweeps, and they cut on both edges. So here I am using a maul and my carving axe to split some wood. I tried using a froe, but the froe, this apple wood that I got from my backyard is slightly dry and really hard to carve. Fruit wood is normally good to use for carving, but only when it's green, when it's just been cut off the tree. This has been sitting around for a while and it's quite dry, so harder to carve, but it won't shrink as much when it's done. So some twist in it. So first of all, you gotta flatten it out. So here's the carving axe, and the technique is you basically make a series of easy cuts toward it, sort of inward towards the line you're trying to cut to, from the bottom up, and then you try to make that, carve down that line, and you just keep going up the board that way, and basically try to flatten it out, get rid of the twist, get rid of the warp, whatever else you see. And then you can cut the back as well and flatten that out a bit, and then you see the knots that you're working with, and the knots are what you want to avoid. You don't want a knot in the middle of your spoon, basically, a wood knot. So the wood is slightly flat. There's still some high points you can get rid of with the axe. So that's what I'm doing here. And this technique is called hewing. Actually, hewing is technically if you're cutting across the grain. Here I'm cutting with the grain. So, but flattening a board with an axe is hewing. And so here I am penciling in an outline of the spoon. And the point of this is to make sure that I don't go over it. Even if I can visualize things in my mind, it's still better to have a point of reference when you're carving. So if you get really good at this, you can carve down to the line very, very closely to the line with the axe, and you have to do less work with the knife, which takes more energy. The axe is faster and just as accurate usually. So you typically want to carve in one dimension at a time, and this is carving in the, if you're looking at the spoon straight on, and there's no other dimension it's carving in. This is where I start carving in another dimension, the second dimension, which is, looking at it from the side, profile view. And then you can see, I've cut out most of it with an axe. This is about as good as I can get with an axe. And then, so onto the knife. So you start with a straight knife, and the whole point is you want to clean it up. There's a lot of techniques on carving where you get the most amount of leverage in control, power and control. And this is just one of them I use like all the time. It's just the most common one. There's another one where you're sort of pulling, what I just showed you. And then this is the last beginner grip, which is pulling the knife towards yourself, which is usually a big no-no if you're into woodworking at all, or really any sort of craft. You know not to point a blade towards yourself. It's a recipe for disaster. But the whole point here is you can control the cut by using your elbow and your ribs, and when your elbow hits your ribs, you stop pulling. So there's usually not a lot of concern about cutting yourself. So fast forward ahead, I missed a couple things, but now I want to carve the bowl. So I want to draw another outline, which is just a quarter, an eighth of an inch, or even less, from the edge of the spoon that I carved. That's going to be the marker for don't cut outside that line, basically. And then I'll use the hook knives, and I'll start with the low sweep. I had another video with the high sweep spoon, but I deleted it because it was mostly like this, where you can't see anything. And this is usually the thing that takes me a while to figure out. But it's the same thing. You're cleaning up the axe work, and then once you get into the groove of things, it becomes a lot easier to take chunks of wood out. When you're all done, sand it down, and you can do some other carvings. I carved my initials in this one, but there's a thing called chip carving where you can carve designs and other things, and then apply boiled linseed oil or any sort of food grade oil that won't go rancid. And you can see that I got so thin you can see light through the wood, which is slightly concerning, but it worked out okay. Thanks for watching.